Right. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preach Miles, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope that you're having a great Wednesday. I hope that everybody had a fun and robust Mother's Day last Sunday. I know I did. So I want to give a shout out to everybody that came out to Sweet Tooth, everybody from Master Muhammad, one of our sponsors, Bannock Ventures, came out, showed out. I want to give a shout out to Sweet Tooth staff, Brother Steve Muhammad, and of course his adorable wife, Sarah, who always gives me a hard time, and the staff that made Mother's Day celebration. We call it always Love My Umi Mother's Day celebration. It was amazing. Shout out to my brother Rick. Hope you're feeling bad. Rick was a trooper. He's been dealing with gout for about the last 3 days, but he came and I can't say he sat down because he couldn't sit, but he was a trooper. And shout out to his wife Sharon, who also came out and assisted. Man, we had a great time, man. This was like a very trouble free Sunday, man. It was like an old folks Sunday down south, man. Everybody just came through. The food was amazing. Brother Tahir did a great job with the hosting, and oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on our spoken word lady. She was amazing as well. Everybody came and did their part. You know what? Sometimes you have an event and you have people running through the background trying to make sure everything is set and taken care of. Rarely do you have a situation where the people who are attending play their role. Like they were great customers, they were great attendees. They had conversation. It was probably one of the easier promoting events that I've had over the years because people came with this spot. Your mother, your mother, your mother. We had a theme. Shout out to Sister Shahida, better known as DJ Salt, who provided the sounds. I mean, it was just an overall great gathering. Number one and number two, we kept it Muslim, we kept it Islamic. We got a prayer in and halal food. But we need to do. We're definitely going to do that again next year. That was my gift to Master Muhammad. Next year, you guys take the template that I gave you and just go out there and do your thing. Go out there and have a bigger event, have more people. Again, shout out to Brother Steve Muhammad at Sweet Tooth, who just made, he just laid it out, man. He just totally laid it out. Now, let me give a shout out to all the moms that are out there. And I'm going to do this as part of a twofer, if you will. I want to say to all the moms that are out there, belated happy Mother's Day. I hope that you had a great time with your family, friends, associates. Even if it's just some time to sit and appreciate who you are as a mother, or appreciate who you had as a mother, or the people, the female influences that made your life. I want to say more full, more rewarding. I want to say more positive, if you will. Celebrate those people. Now, order business because I guess it's the time on here. Order business. Last Wednesday, I was in Los Angeles, and there was not a shout out show. We did not go live. So here's the deal. That has nothing to do with Sister Satana. That has nothing to do with technical difficulties. That has to do with yours truly. I made a mistake. Sometimes it happens when I'm traveling. I got mixed up, and my Wednesday felt like a Tuesday. I don't know if you ever been there before, but my Wednesday felt like a Tuesday. My Tuesday felt like a Monday because I was traveling to LA last minute. And when I looked at the time zone, 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock was like, oh, I got time to set up the show. No, that was 4 o'clock Pacific time. That was not 4 o'clock Central time or 5 o'clock Central time or 6 o'clock Eastern time. So I was all out of pocket. So for those of you who tuned in, please forgive your brother. I caught an exceptionally bad case of old, and I made some mistakes, and that's why the show was not on. And I appreciate everybody that came back this week to hang with us. Our topic today is the war on logic. If you're keeping score, the assault against civil rights has taken another blow. And what I mean by taking another blow is they have continued and finally ripped the guts out of the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act is symbolic because this is something in the terms of the black political space, understanding districting and redistricting, and understanding that the power to galvanize gave them an opportunity to have representation in areas where they are heavily represented. So if you have a black district, you have an opportunity to have somebody from your district that looks like you, understands your concerns, understands your welfare and the wellness concerns you may have. That person can represent you. There's nothing worse than having somebody represent you in the political space that doesn't know your needs, doesn't know your tendencies, doesn't care about your sensibilities in terms of its constituent. They are beholden to something else. This is what the Voting Act is about. Um, I want to say a bad shout out to Tennessee, Memphis. They just basically split Memphis, Tennessee. They did the same thing down in Louisiana, where this was the test case. Louisiana, as large as it has, as large as it is, and as big a black population, they only have really one congressional district that is black, that have black representatives, and they have managed to gerrymander that out. We're going to talk about that under the auspices of the war on logic. The war on logic it's not a concept, it's a reality at this point in time. Sometimes you do a concept, you have aspects of forecasting, you are believing and thinking that something's going to happen, and you have to wait. At this point in time, we are not waiting. We're seeing things happen in real time, with real consequences, a real war, real inflation, real racism, real political, I want to say, dispensation. We have a lot of things that are going on that are right in front of our face. And unfortunately, because there's so many things, which is a strategy, because there's so many things, we now have to pick and choose what kind of argument in terms of logic are we going to get involved with. Now, this may seem racist, and it probably is, but there's two types of logic in America. There's white folk logic and whatever else is left. Let me say it again. It's white folk logic and whatever else is left. The white folk logic, and when I say white folks logic, I'm talking about white supremacy and things like that. That somehow, some way, when I say the word, it hurts the feelings of the people who practice white supremacy. This should be said and it should be very, very clear. The black idea of personhood has always presented a problem for white logic, because black logic is, I want to say, cooled from the dirt. Black logic is cooled from the impossible, damn near, to the possible, to the normal. That things happen out of the black community that should never have happened. That the laws like the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, when black people couldn't even vote, somehow, somewhere yielded a different type of logic that was separated from what black folks couldn't do, separated from what black folks couldn't see, separated from what black folks couldn't say, and it borderline on the aspect under the auspices of, say, God, under the auspices of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, under the auspices of understanding that this logic doesn't work. In many regards, bypassing that logic, finding the balance to be in the middle of the logic but not be a part of the logic. So we're going to talk about that here on the Shout Out Show. The war on logic. I'm happy to be back on air. Apologies again, everybody. I know I wasn't here last week. That's on me. Preacher Monster caught a case of old. We'll be right back talking about the war on logic. Let's get it going. We're back. I'm gonna give us a shout out. I'm gonna start out in Instagram land first. I want to give a shout out to Imam Bayatullah Kolak. I'm sorry, brother, I killed your name, but forgive me. But welcome to the show. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Satana. And Mama Manal Ali joined us. Okay, sister Mama Manal Ali, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, in our space, we got Sister Ree. Salam alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Sister Ree. You got your buddies coming to Houston, so buckle up. Uh, See you soon, inshallah. That's then we're gonna give a shout out. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah barakatuh to brother Bilal, who did actually reach out to me asking if we were gonna go live. Thank you, Bilal, because I was in La La Land, literally in La La Land, and I was not on top of my game. Forgive me. Again, wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah barakatuh. Good to see you, brother. Thanks so much for supporting. Atar Rashid, wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our Canadian envoy to the show. Sorry, apologies to you, brother. I wasn't on air. I made a mistake. By the time I figured it out, man, it was so late for the shout out show. I was literally ashamed. And shout out to Sister Tana, who also reached out to me too before this happened, but I wasn't on top of my WhatsApp game. So, again, here's the blame on my shoulders. This shoulder too. Okay, so we're gonna make sure we got that. My brother JT, what's going on? Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh, little brother, all the way from Milwaukee. I missed the show last week, man. I caught a case of old. I didn't even tell you about that show, that thing on Sunday. By the way, we had a great Sunday program, Mother's Day program. I want to give a shout out a couple people real quick. I want to give a shout out to Omar Kareem for helping us make this happen. Also, want to give a shout out to Imam Anwar Mahayman out of Philadelphia, who donated tickets for some of our elders, some of our seniors to come. And we were blessed to have some of our seniors. We had people in, some of our folks in the 80s, 85. I mean, they were out there and they eat a lot. I just want you to know, when they get in the 80s, they eat a lot. And when we put out desserts, they were stuffing stuff in their bag. But, I'm going to give that to them. It's okay. So the magic at hand, the question at hand, and it should be asked, Preach, what is the war on logic? Well, the war on logic is a premise, if you will, that somehow in this time and era, it's a premise somehow in this time and era that people tell you something, expect you to believe something, and when you give them the correct aspect, the correct answer, a correct perspective, somehow, some way, the error is the thing that gets taken to the marketplace. We keep believing that people, rich people in powerful positions, somehow are going to have a change of heart to help the poor, to help the children, to help the homeless, to help the hungry. We have not seen that. In fact, in this administration in particular, we've seen more restrictions on those who don't have. So those who don't have, they have a little, now they have nothing. And we tend to believe that somehow this is going to change. We believe this during the Reagan years with the voodoo economics and the trickle down theory that if you give the rich people all the money, they're going to do good. They are going to become philanthropic. And well, how are you philanthropic with my money? That's tax money. How are you philanthropic with my money? You're doing goodwill. That's not goodwill. That's my tax money. And it's the same thing when we talk about logic today. We've had so many situations whereby the logic was out in our face, but if you let people talk, this is why I love black people so much. In fact, this is why I love black moms so much. If you got a black mom, holla. This is why I love black moms so much. When you get caught in something and they are talking to you, the one thing you don't want to do is insult their logic. Yes, you do not want to insult their logic. Why? It's going to make that whooping worse. But it's also the fact that you demean things that they have taught you. Let me tell you what I mean demean. Meaning that your behavior, your conduct is unbecoming of what your mother raised you or what your father instructed you to do as a young man or a young woman. The things that we see now, I'm talking about the immense cruelty towards one another, is indicative of the fact that there's an absence of logic. That maybe these Zionist people we talk about are of another case that we're not discussing. that these are people who do not have reflective logic. So if they punch you, that's all that matters. If you think about punching them, they punch you again. That's their logic. If you actually punch them, somehow you've confirmed their logic, which means that I should continue punching you. In America, the scope of the poor is not the logic that they need help, not the logic that they need assistance, is the logic that they need clarity. And that clarity is that they are poor. The clarity is that this situation, this scenario is set up to specifically keep you poor. Whether it's welfare benefits, whether it's food stamps, whether it's, I don't know, WIC, whatever it is, all of these things are meant to keep you in a situation where you're paralyzed, whereby the paperwork, the constant engagement, the constant having to be accountable for something that's so small. I have a friend who has a EBT card, and that EBT card comes and they maybe get $400 on that EBT card for a family of 7. $400 for a family of 7. And they somehow have to be accountable for everything that's bought on that EBT card for $400. You have multi-million-dollar companies, multi-billion-dollar companies that don't even pay taxes. Nobody's worried about them because they don't have EBT cards. Because in America, things are stratified. The more they're stratified means that the further I am away from a realistic situation, the less accountability I have. You know, there used to be a joke. Comedian Slappy White said this about President Johnson back in the day. He said President Johnson declared a war on poverty and all the poor people wound up surrendering. Well, that's what's going on right now. There's a war on logic, and all the people who have logic are winding up having to surrender. I saw something, shout out to Sister Najma Brown, Esquire, who sent me something, and I should have queued it up. She sent me something of a Goya, a man who is not Jewish, talking in front of probably Jewish people or Zionist people, saying that Zionism is good, that he, as a non-Jew, supported Zionism. And what was he saying? He was saying things like success is better than being successful is better than unsuccessful. Being rich is being better than poor. Being educated is better than being illiterate. And this is a man who's not even Jewish, people, talking to a crowd of folks. Nobody raised their hand and said, where's the logic in this? Nobody felt compelled to ask this man, where do you get this information from? And this is a man who's not Jewish. But he felt that he had alignment with the Zionist movement. People, these are the things that are in front of us right now. That conversations like this are being had, and we're not part of these conversations. The biggest thing about DEI, and I'm going to maintain this, the biggest thing about DEI is not that it was diversity, equity, inclusion. It was about accountability. That with the money that came with the government, there was accountability. There's no accountability now. There's a filthy structure whereby if you want this government job, you've got to kiss the ring. You want the good job, you got to kiss the ring. And in that space of wanting the good job, you have to isolate people who normally were in that space, who are normally in that marketplace. And you've got to move them out. You got to, nobody to this point can explain to me the logic of Doge. It wasn't legal. Congress didn't approve it. Senate didn't approve it. People didn't vote for it. But in that space of uncertainty, the United States government was gutted out. Here in the Washington, D.C. area, it may not be for another 5-10 years, but they effectively probably like 40 or 50 years of black middle class escalation. That people came through the civil service space and worked, and they were able to become upwardly mobile, that was killed. Nobody will talk about it. You know why? Because they're engaged in a war on logic. And this is how we lose the war on logic. You ready? We have to combat so many things, right? It's almost like kung fu. You know, you got to fight so many different styles to beat this person, to beat that person, to beat this person. And the reason you lose is that you become tired. That the marketplaces and the forces against you that are so, I want to say, unrelenting, but so uncreative that you tire yourself, you fatigue yourself. And at the times, the most crucial times when we need to stand up, we just don't have it in us. We're tired. And the worst thing that can happen is when you feel or we feel that logic doesn't work. It reminds me of things my grandfather used to say, my grandmother used to say when they used to explain the cruelty of white people in the South, and they used to talk about hangings and used to talk about the ability of a white man to do whatever he wanted to because he wasn't bound by the same logic. And the problem with African Americans is not that we're bound by the same logic, but this logic has produced laws, and now we're bound by the laws. And these laws are not applicable to anybody else but those who have logic and sincere intention to improve themselves or improve the society or environment around them. You know, one of the more progressive things about Christianity and also about Islam, but let me speak about Christianity, is that at the end of the Civil War, when it became apparent that there was going to be an end to slavery, the whole scope of really religiosity of African slaves changed because they said that this white man's religion is not a religion I could deal with. There were aspects that they found genuine in the Judeo-Christian tradition and treaties, but they said the accompaniment of white logic with religion into return in terms of understanding who Jesus was, who God was, the Holy Ghost was, it was too much. I'm a child of the 60s. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a child of the 60s. I'm probably Muslim largely because I couldn't understand that as a kid. I couldn't understand the cruelty in the name of Jesus. I couldn't understand the discrimination in the name of God's will. The Holy Ghost calling me nigger bothered me because I knew it wasn't the Holy Ghost. It was a ghost, it wasn't holy. My point is, we never really grew out of it. This may shock some of you, may not shock some of you, but these wars, this Islamophobia, this DEI, nah, 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 it's designed to get rid of two things. I'm gonna give you the two things. It's designed in America to get rid of black personhood, number one, and it's designed to get rid of, wait for it, black women. Let me say it again: black personhood and black women. Why preach? Because right now, black women are the strongest in logic in the black community. It's almost a reversion to what happened with the Nation of Islam. For those who don't know, the NOI is a very pro-black woman organization. A very pro-black woman organization. What I mean is, if you do the history, you know what? It's Sister Clara Muhammad who brings the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Master Farad Muhammad. Well, and we're not talking about, oh, I don't believe that. I'm talking about the fact that this woman had clarity. That clarity carries over from the 20s to the 30s to the 40s to exactly where we are right now. That brain, that brain trust that said, wait a minute, we can frame this religion to grow leaders, to build leaders, the type of leaders that we want leading our households, leading our communities, leading our mosque. It's the brilliance. It's the antithesis of what we don't see today, which is firm, evolving logic. If you really want to know why people don't like Muslims, I'm going to tell you why. People don't like Muslims because when we ask a question as Muslims, we know where to go find the answer. Let me say it again. When we ask the question as Muslims, we know where to go find the answer. Even the late rendition of African American Muslims here in the United States, when they ask questions, we know where to go find it. If you look at the strategic understanding of the NOI under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he knew what a Quran was. His child studied in the Quran. His child studied Sunni Islam. And people go, why did he study? Because there are things that you have to frame. The logic of a black man having knowledge of self was way too much. Now you got black man having knowledge of self or of what will be described by some people as Oriental religion. It was too much. And even now, as we talk about the war on logic, the framework in the war on logic is you just don't ask questions. You just don't ask questions. Let me even make it clear. If you know the answer, don't get anywhere close to the question. If you understand the question, don't get anywhere closer to the answer. You know, I told you what this thing, because you know the MAGA, the ICE, and all of that is what? It's low-hanging fruit. It's picking on low-hanging fruit. You know, this is the time almost like 9/11, we had the Patriot Act. You know, statistics show, and I don't know if they even have them out there anymore, but I know before 9/11, there was a big issue that there was a crisis in the prison system. They didn't have enough bodies in the prison systems, and they didn't have enough bodies for the private prisons. Private prisons were upset that we're not filled up, and the regular prison systems, the federal and state systems, we barely can have our own folks. And after 9/11, miraculously, the prison systems, both federal, state, and private, went back to being overfull. They were overfilled. They were at capacity plus some. So I would submit to you this logic, that the people who've had the longest engagement, the longest relationship, toxic, non-toxic, political, educational, religious, spiritual, sexual, with this impetus of white supremacy, the people who have had the logic of dealing with these people have done two things that have scared the masses. One, they've rejected logic of white supremacy, and number two, they developed their own logic. Now, I just want you guys to think about that for a moment. You know, even in my own household, when I became Muslim, there was some consternation. Not that I didn't believe in 5 pillars and wanting to be a Muslim and wanting to be strong. It was a consternation and a worry that somehow I had detached from the logic that everybody else was dealing with. That my grandmother and my grandmother in particular worried that having different logic could get me hurt or could get me killed. And she was 100% correct, because she lived to see that. In the fear in her eyes that she always covered up with pride was the fact that I had made a decision and had broken away from the status quo. And to her heart, I had found another way to engage my war on the logic around me. Hey, that's a shout out show. Again, apologies last week I didn't make it, but I will be back next week. Much love to y'all. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace. See you soon.